prime, so W double prime T, the inflection point was 292.7, comma, negative 0.21. And so that showed the physical interpretation of the inflection points on how the fetus switched from a decreasing rate of weight per day to an increasing weight change, which is clearly shown by the use of Desmos. For the next part, for the placenta growth, grams per weeks, W double prime T. Figure 4, the inflection point for the placenta growth on the Desmos graph is 176.6559040, comma 0.011, and the physical interpretation of those inflection points are where the placenta growth rate of change goes to a more positive direction, and it shows an increasing change in the placenta growth. And those graphs show it goes from grams per weeks for both figure 3 and 4 to, in this case, the placenta growth grams per day squared, and which is also congruent with the fetal figure 3 for the previous graph, which is grams per day squared as well. For part 4, we use precise calculation to calculate the missing coefficients for both the fetus and the placenta. And by the use of Desmos, we were then able to make separate graphs that would show what the WF of T would look like for both the fetus and the placenta. And the fetus growth was in grams after the missing coefficient was added, and that's figure 5, and figure 6 is the placenta growth in grams after the missing coefficient had also been added. First and foremost, we calculated the approximate missing coefficient by plugging in the data given in the project into the equation. Going back to the number 4 from the actual project that we submitted, we use that to find the missing coefficient for the fetus, which is negative 3087.65. So from what was seen from the Desmos graph, the inflection point of the placenta weight and the inflection point of the fetal weight do not occur on the same week. But the fetal inflection point, by looking at the graph, has a higher point of inflection than the placenta weight, meaning that the inflection points on the graph would help us when the rate at which the growth was occurring changed. So we could see from the inflection points like how the growth rate changed for the fetus, for example. So for the fetus, starting around the same time as the gestation period, 105 days or 15 weeks to 36 weeks, it was increasing at an increasing rate, but there was a severe drop in fetal growth around week 38, directly prior to birth. That isn't necessarily shown in the graph, but we do believe around week 64, which is the end of the collected data, that the fetal growth was in fact increasing at a decreasing rate. Okay, so now moving on to the placenta weight. So we calculated the placenta weight missing coefficient, which ended up being negative 747.379. And we did that by using the information that we previously had from part 4 of the actual project that we submitted. We then added in numbers and we were then able to find the missing placenta coefficient, C. So reinstating what I said before, the inflection point of the placenta weight and the inflection point of the fetal weight do not occur on the same week. So on the placenta graph, around 105 days, 15 weeks, the gestation started at 25 weeks. So when the placenta growth peaked, the rate at which the placenta was developing was increasing at an increasing rate. Then from 25 weeks, it peaks around week 37, and the placenta growth in the end, because it was so close to the time of actual birth, the placenta growth was increasing at a decreasing rate, which is congruent to the previous statement on how the fetal growth was increasing at a decreasing rate.
For part 5, we have taken the points that the project has given us, and we can see through the polynomial's trendline degree of 1 and 4 that when it is 0, it is actually negative, which shows us that there is barely any placenta until around the 15 weeks mark.
For the next
For part 5, we have taken the points that the project has given us, and we can see through the polynomial's trendline degree of 1 and 4 that when it is 0, it is actually negative, which shows us that there is barely any placenta until around the 15 weeks mark. Overall, with the project, we were able to view the resources given to us, which was the article, and then through that, we answered all of the questions to the best of our ability. We have seen how all the graphs have related to each other in different ways using derivatives and antiderivatives.